Chapter 3: Attack by Stratagem. In warfare, the strategy of offensive planning, as discussed by Sun Tzu, refers to the tactics employed against the enemy. The previous section dealt with the preparation of resources before the battle. Once these preparations are complete, it's time to enter the battlefield. Sun Tzu's military strategy does not advocate for brute force confrontations but rather emphasizes that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, achieving victory through intelligent planning and thus minimizing casualties and property damage on both sides. The strategy of offensive planning differs from tempo calculations. Tempo calculations involve pre-war strategic planning, taking into account various factors and mobilizing all parties involved, with the sovereign playing the leading role. In contrast, the strategy of offensive planning pertains to adaptability on the battlefield, requiring generals to make judgments based on the actual situation, without remote control by the sovereign. As the ancient saying goes, when the general is abroad, he is not bound by the sovereign's orders. For a nation to wage war, it requires a significant expenditure of manpower and resources. Therefore, two questions must be clearly considered before engaging in battle. What is the purpose of the war? And how can this purpose be achieved? The objectives of war can vary. It might be an offensive campaign to expand territory or a defensive effort to protect one's homeland. Broadly speaking, the goal can be divided into weakening the enemy or strengthening oneself. If the aim is to weaken the enemy, one might resort to indiscriminate destruction and plunder. However, if the goal is to strengthen oneself, it is crucial to make full use of the enemy's resources. This isn't a difficult choice for many, as harming others without benefiting oneself is not a common pursuit. To utilize the enemy's resources, one must first protect them. These resources include both wealth and manpower. Hence, Sun Tzu clearly states, the best victory is when the opponent surrenders of its own accord before there are any actual hostilities. It is best to win without fighting. Preserving the enemy's nation allows for the utilization of its resources. Preserving the enemy's army enables its soldiers to serve our cause. This, of course, requires effective control over the defeated enemy. For instance, King Wu of Zhou, after overthrowing the Shang dynasty, appointed Wu Geng, the son of the last Shang king, as a feudal lord, preserving his ancestral temple and allowing him to continue ruling the former Shang capital. This move pacified the remnants of the Shang dynasty and consolidated the political stability of the early Western Zhou dynasty. However, during the reign of King Qing of Zhou, the loss of control over Wu Geng, who conspired with Guan Shu and Kai Shu, caused significant turmoil to the Zhou dynasty's rule. How can one ensure the preservation of an enemy's nation? Sun Tzu believes the best method is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This concept of not fighting isn't about neglect but about using alternative means to bend the enemy's forces. Only in this way can we preserve the resources of the enemy nation for our use. To make an enemy nation submit, there are many methods beyond warfare. Sun Tzu said the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, which relies on wisdom. The next best is to disrupt his alliances, which depends on relationships. Utilizing diplomatic activities to gain the maximum benefit was greatly developed by the strategists of the warring states period. Sun Tzu does not advocate for war lightly and opposes reckless gambles, especially by the weaker party. A weaker side, refusing to acknowledge its limitations and confronting a stronger enemy, will inevitably be defeated. Of course, history has examples of the weak overcoming the strong, but these are exceptional, almost miraculous occurrences. To plan for a certain victory, one must rely on an absolute advantage to subdue the enemy, not on a 1 in a million chance. As Mencius said, the small cannot stand against the great, the few cannot stand against the many, the weak cannot stand against the strong. Being weak and small is not to be feared. What is frightening is not recognizing one's own weaknesses. Only by facing our deficiencies can we strive to improve and become stronger in the future. For instance, Gojian, defeated by the king of Wu, could not have sought revenge simply with spirited resolve at that time. He first had to recognize his position, then endure hardships and maintain his resolve, accumulating strength for a perfect counterattack. The true strength of an army and the relative superiority or inferiority of enemy forces are best understood by the generals on the front lines. It is they who, based on the ever-changing conditions of the battlefield, can make the most advantageous decisions for the war effort. Generals must have the autonomy to manage military affairs without interference, and this includes non-interference from the sovereign. The principle that the general is able and the sovereign does not interfere serves not only as encouragement for the general, but also as a warning to the sovereign. This passage primarily discusses the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, emphasizing the importance of achieving victory through strategy and wisdom, and the significance of resorting to force only as a last resort. It asserts that knowing the enemy and knowing oneself, in 100 battles no danger of defeat, is a universal principle that all military leaders should adhere to. Mao Zedong also commented that Sun Tzu's know the enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles with no danger of defeat is a scientific truth. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, and the importance of achieving total victory through strategy has been proven in numerous wars. All wise commanders are masters of strategy and tactics. Sun Tzu believed that when waging war, the best strategy is to make the enemy's nation submit completely. Defeating them is only a lesser strategy. To win over the enemy's army completely is the best strategy. Merely defeating them is a lesser strategy. To win over the enemy's soldiers is the best strategy. Merely defeating them is a lesser strategy. In summary, winning every battle is not the highest skill. Subduing the enemy without fighting is the most brilliant strategy. Therefore, a first-rate commander should aim to disrupt the enemy's strategic plans, secondly disrupt their alliances, thirdly defeat their army, and as a last resort, besiege their cities. Besieging cities leads to a significant loss of soldiers and resources and should only be used as a last resort. If a large number of soldiers are lost without capturing the city, it's a disaster. A skilled military leader makes the enemy submit without direct combat, captures their cities without a siege, and conquers their nation without prolonged warfare. This is the strategy of achieving total victory and winning through strategic offense. The principles of conducting warfare are: if your forces are 10 times the enemy's, surround them; if 5 times, attack them; if equal, divide and conquer; if fewer, be prepared to defend; if weaker, avoid the enemy. In this way, even a smaller army can win. Blindly engaging in battle will only lead to defeat. Whether a sovereign is wise or foolish, knowledgeable in military affairs or not, plays a significant role in the outcome of a war. If he is ignorant of military strategy and insists on advancing the army when it should not, or retreating when it should not, he will hinder the army's effectiveness. If he meddles in military administration without understanding its internal affairs, it leads to confusion and disarray among the officers and soldiers. If he interferes in command without understanding the flexibility required in military matters, it results in uncertainty and doubt among the troops. In such cases, the army loses its fighting capability and becomes vulnerable to enemy exploitation. This is akin to creating chaos within one's own ranks, presenting opportunities to the enemy, and leading to defeat. Sun Tzu believed there are 5 situations that can predict victory. Knowing when to fight and when not to fight ensures victory. Understanding how to handle forces, whether they are numerous or few, ensures victory. Having officers and soldiers united in purpose ensures victory. Being prepared while the enemy is unprepared ensures victory. Having competent generals free from sovereign interference ensures victory. These 5 are the ways to know victory. Understand the enemy and yourself, and in 100 battles, you will never be in peril. Understand yourself but not the enemy, you may win or may lose. Understand neither the enemy nor yourself, and you will be imperiled in every single battle. Therefore, military strategists must first defeat the enemy in strategy and tactics, attacking with strategy, not acting recklessly. This is what modern people often say: strategically, we can despise the enemy, but tactically, we must take them seriously. In the chapter on offensive strategy, Sun Tzu first introduces the concept of ensuring complete victory in the struggle for supremacy. In other words, to conquer an enemy nation and expand territory, reliance on military force alone is insufficient. Instead, military strength should be supported by a comprehensive use of political, diplomatic, economic, cultural, covert, and overt means to fully subjugate the enemy nation or army. This is why, in times of war, a commander must not only be skilled in leading troops into battle but also possess keen political insight, emphasizing the art of war is based on deception, and the next best is to disrupt his alliances. Sun Tzu regards these as superior and intermediate strategies, ranking them above the siege of cities, as they are political methods. This aligns with the modern saying, war is a bloody form of politics, while politics is a bloodless form of war. Therefore, only by considering war from a political perspective can one truly understand its nature and establish a comprehensive strategic vision. Sun Tzu first compares the methods of defeating the enemy through strategy and through force, clearly advocating for complete victory as superior and destruction as inferior. To have the enemy submit entirely and intact while ensuring one's own side remains unharmed is the ideal outcome. This is to subdue the enemy without fighting, the acme of skill. In contrast, defeating the enemy through force, even though victorious, inevitably leads to certain losses on one's own side. This time-consuming and effort-intensive approach is not the most ideal. Achieving total victory while also protecting oneself and maximizing the benefits of military engagement is what Sun Tzu refers to as complete. In this chapter, Sun Tzu also clearly articulates the relationship between a commander's understanding of both the enemy and their own forces and the outcome of war. He presents a general principle for guiding warfare. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Mao Zedong also commented on this as a scientific truth, a principle that everyone should follow. This thought contains deep materialist dialectics and epistemological philosophy. That Sun Tzu, over 2,000 years ago, could consciously recognize and grasp this is truly remarkable. Story 1: The Battle of Zhuolu. The Battle of Zhuolu took place over 4,600 years ago. It was a decisive conflict that determined the fate and structure of the Central Plains, involving a coalition of tribes led by the Yellow Emperor and the Yan Emperor against the Zhiwu tribe of the Dongi group. Legend has it that the Zhiwu tribe excelled in weapon making. Their weapons were exceptionally well crafted, and their warriors were brave and fierce, naturally skilled in combat. After arriving in the North China region, they initially clashed with the Yan Emperor's tribe. The Zhiwu tribe, along with the giant Quafu tribe, defeated the Yan Emperor's forces. Consequently, the Yan Emperor's tribe sought assistance from the Yellow Emperor's tribe. The Yellow Emperor agreed to their request and merged their forces. They then led their combined armies to confront the Zhiwu tribe in the Zhuolu area. When the war broke out, it coincided with dense fog and a severe storm, conditions that were highly advantageous for the Zhiwu tribe, accustomed to the rainy environment of the east. Therefore, in the initial phase of the battle, the Yellow Emperor's tribe, who preferred fighting in clear weather, found themselves at a disadvantage and suffered multiple defeats. However, it wasn't long before the rainy season passed, and the weather cleared, providing a crucial opportunity for the Yellow Emperor's tribe to turn the tide. Seizing the moment, with the help of the Zhuolu tribe, the Yellow Emperor's forces launched a counterattack against the Zhiwu tribe. Taking advantage of the fierce winds and blinding dust storms, they blew their horns and beat their drums amidst the chaos, driving their forces to attack the disoriented Zhiwu warriors. Ultimately, they decisively defeated the enemy and captured their leader, Zhiwu. Thus, the Battle of Zhuolu ended in victory for the Yellow Emperor's tribe. The ultimate victory of the Yellow Emperor's tribe in the Battle of Zhuolu can be attributed to their superior war strategy compared to Zhiwu. Specifically, they focused on both political and military preparations for the war. They invested significant effort in integrating and unifying their tribes and strategically divided responsibilities, with the Yan Emperor focusing on domestic economic affairs and the Yellow Emperor leading external military campaigns. During the war, the Yellow Emperor's tribe excelled in forming alliances and carefully selecting and preparing the battlefield. They skillfully exploited climatic conditions that were advantageous to them but detrimental to their enemy. By launching a decisive and timely counterattack, they were able to defeat their formidable opponent and establish their rule in the Central Plains region. In contrast, despite the Zhiwu tribe's strong military force and superior weaponry, their over-reliance on military power and continuous external expansion led to their downfall, exemplifying Sun Tzu's principle that those who are fond of war will inevitably perish. In terms of tactical guidance, the Zhiwu tribe lacked adaptability to changing weather conditions and were unprepared for the large-scale counteroffensive of the Yellow Emperor's tribe, ultimately leading to their defeat. Story 2: Zhiwu's Lamentation to the Qin army. In 630 BC, the state of Jing faced a joint siege by the powerful states of Qin and Jin. The armies of Qin and Jin quickly approached the capital of Jing. Facing imminent destruction, the ruler of Jing urgently convened his officials to devise a strategy. They decided to send Zhiwu to persuade the Qin army to retreat. Zhiwu, a minister skilled in diplomacy and eloquence, approached the Qin camp located to the east of the city under the cover of night and began to weep loudly at its gates. Duke Mu of Qin ordered Zhiwu to be brought before him and asked, "Why do you weep in our camp?" Zhiwu replied, "I weep for both Jing and Qin." "Why do you say that?" inquired Duke Mu, intrigued. Zhiwu explained, "Our state of Jing does not border your Qin. Jing lies to the east, while Qin is to the west, with Jin in between. If Jing falls, its lands can only be occupied by Jin's troops. Qin cannot cross Jin to take Zheng's land. Qin and Jin are currently evenly matched in power. If Jin acquires Zheng's territory, its strength will greatly surpass its former state, making Qin relatively weaker. Your current actions are inadvertently strengthening Jin, akin to nurturing a tiger that will eventually turn against you. Moreover, Jin has always been untrustworthy. They have been expanding their military might every day, and their ambition knows no bounds. Today they destroy Jing, and tomorrow they might expand westward towards Qin. If you lift the siege on Jing, we will form an alliance with Qin. Henceforth, whenever Qin's envoys pass through Jing, they will be treated with the utmost hospitality as esteemed guests. This arrangement would surely be beneficial for you. Zhiwu's words were logical and persuasive, clearly outlining the disadvantages of destroying Jing for Qin. Consequently, Duke Mu of Qin realized the futility of their campaign against Jing and agreed to withdraw his troops immediately, also signing a treaty with Jing. The Qin army discreetly returned to their homeland, leaving behind 3 generals and 2,000 soldiers to assist in defending the city of Jing. When Duke Wen of Jin saw that Duke Mu of Qin had left without a word, he was infuriated. However, realizing he couldn't succeed alone, he reluctantly ceased his military campaign and withdrew his forces. Sun Tzu in The Art of War, the chapter on planning a siege, says, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. The next best is to disrupt his alliances, followed by attacking his army, and the worst is to besiege his cities." Disrupting his alliances refers to defeating the enemy through diplomatic means, achieving victory without warfare. Zhiwu's unique diplomatic approach of entering the Qin camp at night and persuading Duke Mu of Qin through an emotional appeal, ultimately convincing the Qin army to retreat, was far more ingenious than mere military confrontation. Don't miss out on this potentially life-changing opportunity. If you want to gain more insightful wisdom, go ahead and tap that like button, subscribe to our channel, and help us keep producing high-quality content. And don't forget to click the bell icon below the video, so you'll be the first to receive our latest updates and never miss a chance to enhance yourself.